Hi everyone, welcome to Module 4. For Module 4, we're going to be reading chapters 8 through 12. You're going to have your first proctored exam, which is going to be the midterm exam. The midterm exam is going to be covering 25 multiple choice questions, and it's going to have 60 minutes, 2 attempts, and I will take the highest of your 2 attempts. Make sure to review your answers on each of your attempts so you can do well. It will be covering chapters 1 through 12 as well. So for this week, let's look at chapter 8. We're going to look at short-run decisions. And when we look at short-run decisions, we're looking at how firms make decisions in the market. And you'll notice that firms are facing a lot of choices right now of where they should produce at and how they should be producing their output. That's very important. When we look at the short run, we look at differences between the cost of production, which is both the short run and the long run. And we look at these different time periods. We're going to look at fixed cost and variable cost. Fixed costs are going to be costs that do not change when more is being produced, whereas variable costs are going to be costs that do change when more is produced. Examples of fixed costs could be classified as rent. So that means the more we produce, we still pay the same amount of rent. Examples of other costs that we could look at are variable costs. And when we look at variable costs, you'll notice that variable costs are cost of productions that increase when more is being produced. So we could look at variable costs and say variable costs of production depend on the amount of output. The more we produce in terms of output, the more changes there will be involved. When we look at this concept called total cost is going to equal fixed cost plus variable cost. Firms are going to have to evaluate their cost of productions and decisions that they have to make. That's very important for them to understand what they should be evaluating and where should they be evaluating at. When firms are looking at making decisions, it's very important that they're looking at both their short and their long-run cost of production to make decisions within the market. When we look at fixed costs, you notice here that fixed costs do not change. So as we keep producing the same amount, fixed costs will stay the same. You'll notice that average fixed costs, though, will decrease. To find average fixed costs, you divide total cost by output to find average fixed cost. But total fixed costs will not change. It will stay the same. When we look at variable cost, we're going to be looking at cost of production to produce goods and services. Now, let's look at the curves and what they represent. Total variable cost will always be increasing, which means the more that's being produced, the more we need people and machines. And when we have more production, we produce more and our costs will increase. You'll notice the more we produce with regard to our fixed cost, the cost will stay the same. Now, marginal cost is going to be the change in total cost from producing an additional unit. So when we go from 0 to 1 unit, you notice the cost of productions are going to be 20. We go from 1 to 2 units, you notice the cost of production has increased from 20 to 38, so the second unit is 18. We go to 2 to 3 units, cost of productions increased from 38 to 53. Marginal costs are where most of the decisions in economics are made. They're made on the margin. When we look at the shape of the cost curves, you'll notice that we have a lot of challenges. The shapes of the cost curves will help us estimate how these challenges are being met. When we look at the production of each worker, you'll notice that their marginal production could decrease. And when their marginal production could decrease, that could increase the cost of production, which creates a lot of challenges within markets. So the cost of production When workers are not as productive, they're going to cost more and more to hire an additional worker. And we look at the total variable costs and marginal costs. You'll notice that we're looking at how these costs of productions are being evaluated in markets. You'll notice that marginal cost is looking at the additional cost to produce an additional unit. Marginal cost will have this kind of check or U-shaped symbol a little bit. You'll notice the total variable cost will increase at an increasing rate. Here's a hypothetical firm of the short run variable cost, of the production cost for short run. The reason why these production costs will exist is when we're looking at fixed costs that are present in the market. You notice you have total variable cost, which continues to increase. You have marginal cost, which is the change in total cost. Average variable cost, which is the total variable cost divided by output. Total fixed cost, you notice, will stay the same. It's the cost of the production that never changes. You have total cost, which is variable plus fixed cost. And you have average fixed cost, which is total fixed cost divided by output. So as you notice, total cost will increase. The reason why total cost increases is because of our variable cost. You notice the average fixed cost, they will continue to decrease because total fixed costs stay the same. And when you divide by output, you'll notice there's going to be a decrease in the cost. And then you have average total cost, which will go through this area where it will decrease. So now let's graph these costs. When we graph the costs, we're going to look at the relationship between marginal cost and average variable cost. You notice that average variable cost is decreasing when marginal cost is lower than it. And then average variable cost is increasing when marginal cost is ahead of it or above it. So look at this scenario real quick, and then we'll evaluate it. So when you look at that example, you notice that example is going to be focused on the role of marginal cost. Airlines have a fixed cost of the airplane, and when more is being produced, that's going to create a lot of challenges in markets. And what that means is more is being produced, and they have an additional cost to produce an additional seat in the airline. So that's what you're going to be focused on when you look at marginal cost. So these are some of the costs that we're going to be focused on. When you look at your midterm exam, I want you to make sure to take advantage of the 2 attempts and review your answers. That'll be very important. Review your answers, improve on your second attempt to help with your evaluation. If you need any additional resources, please let me know, but make sure to plan ahead. That's the key. When you make sure to plan ahead, it will be very easy to actually complete it because I'm going to give you 2 weeks to complete it. And I look forward to your effort.